If somebody's consuming large amounts of alcohol and they quit cold turkey without medical supervision, they're at risk of withdrawal seizures. And so for somebody who is a very, very heavy drinker and they need to get professional help, like from Gateway Foundation, in developing a plan to be monitored and cared for by medical staff so that they are not going to have a withdrawal seizure.
How did someone know that they're that heavy of a drinker?
A lot of people who have drank a lot have had some of those experiences. If you're the kind of drinker that needs a drink the next morning to stop the shakes, then you're probably not a good candidate for dry January, but you're a great candidate for treatment.
And overall, folks that are doing this, it's really a good time to look at your alcohol use and how easy or hard, I'm assuming, dry January actually is for you.
I'm a big fan of folks talking about dry January because it gets people talking about, do I need to change my relationship with alcohol? Alcohol use disorder runs on a continuum. People can have this disease mild, moderate, or severe. And a lot of times people are not paying attention to what's going on with their relationship with alcohol early enough until they hit a rock bottom or have significant consequences. With dry January, people can have the opportunity to look at, I tried to quit and I struggled. I lied about quitting to everybody else and I'm drinking in secret. You're probably a good candidate for needing something other than dry January, like treatment services from Gateway Foundation.
Yeah, because for some people, probably quitting for a week or so is not a very big deal. But if it goes beyond that, I would imagine that's when you need to reach out if you can't stay.
There are people who struggle with not having a drink for 24 hours. There are other people who can go 2-3 weeks without a drink, and then when they resume the drinking, and that's one of the things that I think is important is that if you are successful in dry January and then you find at the beginning of February that you're not only back to old levels of drinking but perhaps accelerated, that's a good time for you to think about, what did I learn when I wasn't drinking and why am I drinking so much more now?
And what are people around loved ones who are trying dry January and maybe not succeeding in it? What can they do to help this person out?
Well, I think they need to be honest.
Okay.
People need to have honest conversations about what's going on, why do you keep returning to this behavior that you've said that you don't want to engage in? Because addiction is defined as that repeating of that behavior regardless of the consequences, regardless of what you may want to do. That's why it's a disease, is that you reach a point when you have crossed that threshold from it being a problem to being the disease that you're not in control of your ability to manage and moderate it.
Yeah, because we're not talking about not having a chocolate bar for a day or two. It's very different on your system, correct?
Well, alcohol is a drug,
yeah,
and alcohol use has an impact on all of the systems of the body. And repeated misuse and overuse of alcohol over a period of time shortens life expectancy. And we've seen with an increase in alcohol use during the pandemic that alcohol-related visits to emergency rooms as well as alcohol-related deaths have increased and spiked over the last 2 years.
If somebody makes it through the entire month of dry January, it's like, fine, I was fine. Does that necessarily mean that they don't have an alcohol use disorder?
Well, it depends on how they feel. What fine has a lot of different operations. I made it, but by biting my nails may still be a problem.
Okay.
Fine, and I don't know that I want to start back, probably does not have an alcohol use disorder, but fine, and now I need to catch up. I need to catch up on all that I didn't do. We probably have an alcohol use disorder here.
Like you said, the truth is you just have to be honest with yourself.
Honesty is an important factor here, and I think communication about what your needs are. And although there are a lot of people that don't like to ask for help, asking for help is important, and help is out there. We know that treatment works. Gateway Foundation has a real wide variety of treatment options for people, and we want to help people that need treatment.
So if you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, you can reach out to Gateway Foundation. The information is right there on your screen.